Hi,
Uh,
everybody. It is the 10 Air movie review. And this week we watched the I believe the man is named Freddie Lopez. No, I should do my research.
yeah, that's
We
not our
watched the
thing.
we
That's
watched
not
the
our
evil
thing.
we watched the Evil Dead remake from 2020 what 2013. Freddie Alvarez, excuse me.
Oh, it's
Uh
like, is it, how do you pronounce it's Fede? Fede?
uh I
I'm
well
guessing
I
Fede.
It's probably Fede, but like I've seen it said many times and everyone says Freddy. So maybe it's like he just likes to go
Oh,
by that. I'm not
full
sure.
name Federico. That makes sense.
Well, I'm gonna spoil it. He sucks, and this movie sucks. So the reason I wanted to watch this movie is it's a movie. Well, first of all, I watched Evil Dead Rise this past weekend, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
I've heard
Uh,
nothing but good things about that movie.
one of the best horror movies I've seen like in a while. Like it's really
Wow.
good. It's super gory. It's a lot of fun. Um, the all the actors are good in it, which is something I can't say about the movie that we reviewed. The lead actress who plays like the villain, the main possessed mom, is like excellent. I loved it. I thought it was great. We're not reviewing that movie, but go out and see it. It's worth it. It's a
We
lot of
will
fun.
very soon. We should.
I
But then
really,
would
really
it would
enjoyed it.
just be a gush fest, I feel like,
Yeah,
to make
it's
that possible.
excellent though, and if anybody's listening to this and you want to see a good Evil Dead movie, check that out. Um, this movie though, I mean, I wanted to revisit this movie because this is a movie that we talk a lot about movies that are in the public consciousness to certain levels, and this movie I feel like kind of came and went. Like I remember seeing it in the theater,
Hmm.
and I remember kind of having the same reaction to it that I had this last time watching it. But I kind of forgot it existed until Evil Dead Rise came out. And I heard a lot of positive things about Evil Dead Rise, and then I saw a lot of people talking about the 2013 movie and saying how much they loved it, and I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember 2013 being that good. And I thought before I saw Rise, I thought it was the same director, but it's not. This director, the director that made the 2013 film, one of his other notable credits is making that god awful Texas Chainsaw Netflix movie that came out last year,
Yeah.
which oof.
This
But
was
yeah,
it said that this movie was his feature directorial debut.
this is his feature directorial debut. This movie was produced by Sam Raimi, and I guess from what I understand, Sam Raimi also was like on the set, like teaching him how to direct.
Oh,
Basically,
Jesus. Is that
that sounds
true?
kind of pejorative, but I guess
Yeah.
he was assisting a first time filmmaker, right? That's a much more charitable way to say that. And I didn't mean it to come off as that sounds fucked up to say he helped him, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And what's your experience with this film previous to today, Chris?
Zero.
Yeah, I never saw it.
No.
How
I
do you?
thought I thought when I saw this poster, like I thought it was a new movie. I thought it was
Oh, right.
Evil Dead Rise. I thought it was a poster for Evil Dead Rise, but then within a second I realized Rise is omitted from this poster. So I was
Yeah,
like,
you're like, wait a
oh
minute.
shit. Yeah, hold on, what? Yeah, I
Um,
totally missed the boat on this one.
Now what is your level of what's your level of familiarity and overall love for the original Evil Dead trilogy?
I'll be the first to admit I haven't seen that movie in
Any
its
of them?
entirety for over a decade probably.
Yeah.
But funny enough, I see clips like on
Oh,
YouTube all the
yeah.
time. Because if you just search horror or any kind
Oh
of
yeah, Evil Dead comes up quite a bit.
Evil Dead comes up all the time, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big fan of all three movies. Evil Dead 1 is Evil Dead 1 to me is like Mad Max, where it's nobody's favorite, right? Like nobody's favorite Road Warrior movie is Mad Max. Mad Max is terrible. Like it's fine, and it's like a, you know what I mean? It's just like Evil Dead 1. Like they did it on like a nothing budget, and it's kind of rough around the edges, and you can see the kernels of like what's to come. but it's no, and you might still like it. Like I still like Evil Dead 1, but it's nobody's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody likes Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is the best one. And then Army of Darkness is great, but Army of Darkness is like a whole different thing. Like Army of Darkness feels like an adventure movie. It doesn't
Yeah.
really feel like a horror movie. Um, and funny enough, and again, this is about the remake, but we won't talk too much more about the originals. One of the biggest reasons why Evil Dead 2 exists and is basically a remake of Evil Dead 1 is because Sam Raimi didn't have the rights to Evil Dead, the original. So he made a second one that was basically a remake of the first one.
Interesting.
It's a
Yeah, I
hotly
did not know that.
it's a hotly contested issue whether or not Evil Dead 1 exists in canon to Evil Dead 2 because
Mhm.
nobody can confirm or deny it. Funny enough, if you read anything the director of the 2013 film says, he actually says that Evil Dead exists in this timeline, and the car that the girl sits on in the beginning of the movie is Ash's car, which I thought was just
Wow.
I thought that was just like a little Easter egg, but no,
Yeah.
that's supposed to mean that the house, this is the same house from the original Evil Dead, which I'm like,
Okay.
all
All right.
right. Um, so first off, let me just say, so this movie is very, very simple. Um, a bunch of friends get together in two of the a bunch of friends get together to perform a intervention for their one friend who is a heroin addict. The heroin addict and her brother. This is their childhood cabin. This is a cabin that they frequented as children. This cabin unfortunately has the Necronomicon, and
It is pretty unfortunate.
well, here's the thing that here's my first problem plot wise with this movie. So that book has been there presumably for hundreds of years, and but they've been in this house like a ton like how come
Yeah.
nothing has happened? Also, if Evil Dead exists, like, so what did they clear out all the dead people from Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, and now like this family just happened to buy this like horror massacre house? Like, I don't understand.
And also the person that discovered the Necronomicon was my least favorite character.
He's the worst. And
Okay, good. I'm not
he
the
like,
only one. He was
oh my god,
terrible.
and he fucking like he manages to survive and come back like 65 times in this movie where he should have died. And then hilariously at the end he comes back as a zombie. It's like, why didn't you just have him come back as his regular self? Because he's already survived like everything else. Um that's a good place to start though. I that my primary problem with this movie is I don't care about any of the
Yeah,
characters like at all. I find them
nobody's likable,
really
expendable.
irritating the entire time.
Yeah,
You know, famously, like again, like comparing it to the original, and really, it's more comparing it to the whole trilogy. You know, Ash. When you think about Evil Dead, you think about Ash. That's like the most important
yeah,
character in Evil Dead. Now, if you watch Evil Dead 1, Ash is not the Ash that you know from Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2. He's kind of reluctantly heroic, and he's not really the character that we know and love. So I understand the perspective of this movie to not recast Ash, but what they give us is just a nothing burger. Like the guy who basically becomes the Ash of this movie is just so like Madden create a character. Like he's just generic. Like there's
yeah.
not like what is his like you know what I mean? Like I do this a lot. Somebody told me this the other day. Like every time you talk about movies, you talk about 15 other movies. It's like, yeah, well, I watch a lot of
You
movies.
have to. It's
Um,
you got to give a
this
reference
to
point, a
me
jump off point.
this to me reminds me so much of the Mortal Kombat movie that came out in like 2020 because you know Mortal Kombat's full of like iconic characters and characters that people love, and who do they decide to make the main character? Cole. Some
Yeah,
guy named Cole who has zero charisma, like zero charm, zero memorability. Cole. And that's what I don't even remember the name of the guy from the remake of Evil Dead. Like he's just the brother. And
yeah.
it's just like he's so flat and
I
boring
think
and
it's Eric.
Eric. Cool. Eric. Um it's just there's just like there's so little to this movie, and the only thing that it relies on that I think people maybe remember or it sticks with people is it is insanely gross. It's
Mhm.
very violent. Like it's very violent, which I respect, and the effects are done very well. But it makes sense that this guy made that Texas Chainsaw remake because that has the same thing. Like the movie sucks, but like it is super gory.
Yeah.
Like the gore in the movie is like really over the top, but also like we're jumping around, but whatever. Again, this movie is like the plot of this movie is
Yeah,
paper
you
thin.
guys can just don't click off of us, but you can watch the trailer at any point.
And
Of this.
you'll literally oh shit, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just took a nap and I woke up and then my camera broke, so I'm a little out of sorts.
No, it's
Yeah.
all good. I mean, yeah, it's fine.
Um I forgot already the thing we've established for like 3 episodes. Sorry.
No, it's
Um,
every new episode is a new discovery.
it's so another problem that I had with this movie. So like, generally in Evil Dead, like the Necronomicon is just like a gateway. It like if you speak the words, it's like a gateway that opens up and basically creates like a hell mouth. So like a spirit or like multiple evil spirits can like come to Earth, right? But in this movie, like if they perform all these rituals, then like a like king demon will show up called the Abomination. So they like build this up like it's going to be this big thing. And like again, I haven't seen this movie in so long. So at the end of the movie, when um when the girl seemingly kind of wins and it starts raining blood, I thought it was going to have like the cabin in the woods ending where like this like giant demon basically like ends the world.
Yeah.
But no, it's just the girl again, and it's like basically she's supposed to be like the toughest demon ever, and she's basically just like this weird looking demon woman that like gets beaten by a chainsaw. Like what?
Yeah.
Like how is she like the worst demon ever? Like I it was kind of underwhelming. Like you didn't even give me like a monster. Like it's just the same. It looks, it's just the same kind of thing you've seen throughout the rest of the entire movie. It was just like, eh.
Yeah.
Like,
At what point did you feel like I'm not really going to like this movie?
oh, immediately. I'm glad you asked. That is a very important question. Like immediately. Like as soon as the character like I don't know, there's a vibe you can pick up from a horror movie just by how it's written and like the vibe of how it's shot and like the plot immediately was just so apparent, like the way the characters interacted with each other. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, it's one of these.
Well, I
Like,
think you nailed it when you said when you were talking about these cast of milk toast
I
actors.
mean,
It was like there
yeah,
was zero chemistry. There was
there's zero
nothing.
chemistry and there's zero like
Believability.
name a characteristic of any of these like name something memorable about
Right.
any of these characters, and I you can't do it.
That dude had
There's
thick glasses.
yeah, and he
Saved
was
his
annoyed.
ass
Yeah,
or his eye actually.
he had thick glasses, so that's why he could read the Necronomicon. And like
Because he's the
what?
book nerd. He's the only one that could understand it.
It not
Clearly, he
only
was wearing glasses, TJ.
not only were they like oh absolutely not only were they like flat and boring, but their interpersonal relationships were flat and boring. And
Yeah.
like the thing that's kind of frustrating is there's like a kernel of a good idea in here. Like I like the idea, and it's funny because doing it again, but that Hellraiser remake like they fumbled the same thing where basing a horror movie around somebody that's like dealing with like a drug addiction is interesting, right? Because drug addiction turns you into a different person. It makes you chew up the people around you that care about you, that are trying their best to do something for you, but you ultimately, destroy them because of the addiction that's taken you over. Like it's a simple metaphor to get right. And the Hellraiser movie, like basically aside from like the opening scene, like forgets about it completely by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
In this movie, like I feel like it's trying to get there, but it doesn't really work. Like I've seen a lot of people like praise the movie for that, but to me, like it's not there and it's people doing work for the movie. Like
Yeah.
I think that they wanted to do it, but I think the thing is written so poorly, it just doesn't work. Like hilariously in this movie to me, there's a point where like people in their group are already literally turning into like yellow-eyed like killer zombie people, right? And they're trying to like rationalize it, and they're like, well, what about this? And like they try to bring up her addiction and stuff, and it's like that only works if she still looks normal. Like that only works if like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you can't, I get what you're doing, but like you can't have her literally look like a monster person, like and be like people still trying to look at this thing rationally. Like it just doesn't work. Like
I
it's
thought,
very
yeah,
goofy.
I thought the movie was going to change course in that moment in which Eric sees what's the protagonist name? I forgot her name.
I forgot all their names. They're
The
just the
demon,
drug addict. Yes.
the
Yeah.
drug addict. Yeah.
Yeah.
So uh when she was in the shower and her like face started to bubble
Skin
up
starts
and break,
melting off. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, oh, now they're gonna know something's fucked up. But
Mm-mm.
they were just like, oh, this must be a normal, they
I
didn't say it, a
I
normal
believe
part
it.
of drug withdrawal.
Yeah, I believe it
Let's
literally
get her
takes
to the
her
hospital.
murdering one of them, and they still don't like. She like shoots
Yeah,
the brother like, or she grazes him with that shotgun, and they're still like, well, maybe she's just in withdrawals. It's like, what?
right.
Huh? Um,
Now,
I've been. I will be positive. I'm not completely negative all the time, but the makeup effects and like I said, the visual effects in general, I thought were really good.
yeah,
Like there is a
I
pretty
thought so
like
too. Yeah,
there's a lot of callbacks to Evil Dead. When they chain her in that basement with that like the floor, like it's right there.
yeah,
Like I thought all that stuff looked great. Like I it's like more of that. Like I think like if you can make a good version of this movie, but it's a lot more subdued. You know what I mean? This movie
yeah,
kind of wants its cake and to eat it too, right? Like it wants to be this like balls to the wall gore fest, but like it also tries to have it wants to be this quiet meditation on like drug withdrawal, and you got to kind of pick one. Like you got to
right.
stay in a lane. Like I think you could
I
make
like
a
that.
very good version of this story, but I think like again, like it deals with one person possessed, not like the whole house becoming full of zombie monster killers. And like then maybe like then again, you need to keep the level of like believability pretty high, and then you can kind of make it work. But the way they did it, it just I don't think it works at all. Like when you got somebody that looks like this and you're still trying to like reason with her, like I don't know what you're like, I don't know what you're thinking. It kind of ruins the level of like believability, it's kind of out the window.
Yeah,
um Another thing that I could not stand in this movie is I hated the like kind of it's like the penultimate resolution where the brother he thinks of like a loophole to like get the sister back, where he kills her but then like brings her back to life with this what do you call those electrified paddles, a
oh,
defibrillator.
defibrillator. Yep.
It's like an improvised defibrillator that he makes, and it's like what? And then it's like No Country for Old Men, where Eric is killed and then she's the main character, and it's like wait, what? Like what the hell? There's only like 10 minutes left of this movie. What are you doing? It was very strange. It's a very strange choice, because like also I don't like the idea. Something I did love about Evil Dead Rise that I just watched is there's like hopelessness in that movie. Like the
Mhm.
characters are desperately trying to figure out how to fight this demon invasion, and spoiler alert, they learn that you just can't. And it's
Yeah,
kind of awesome. Like they find these records that like this priest that originally did it, like so in most movies that reveals something where they could figure out a way out.
yeah,
Not in that movie, and that's why
really.
I loved it. It's like very nihilistic.
That's
um
dark. Where like so there it you end the movie with absolutely zero hope. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying? Like it's just like
Well, I mean, I don't want to spoil the other movie, but yeah,
yeah,
it's basically like the premise that they set up in Rise is that once these things are out, you're basically screwed, and like you can only kind of mitigate them for a little while. You can't stop them, which is awesome.
yeah.
Like, and It's really cool. One other thing I will say positive about the remake. I liked the cold open a lot. I thought the
Mhm.
cold open was really good. I
Yeah.
was like, and that actually got me pretty charged up. I was like, oh, okay. Because that's a great scene. Like, they
Yeah.
grab the girl and the girl is panicking, and you think she's like normal. And you think, well, maybe the people that are capturing her are crazy because they look like crazy, like fucking Hills Have Eyes people. And then like she goes nuts and she's like, does all the like exorcist, like your wife's a whore in hell and like I love killing her and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like that was really good. Like that shit was like fine. Like that was like a great little short film. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
I felt the same way. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. If it keeps up
Yeah.
at this pace,
And yeah, it
um,
was it was a really strong cold open. It doesn't like I don't think there's anything to that level to the rest of the movie.
yeah.
Like
So,
there's little tiny visual things that I really enjoyed, like talking about the scene where the brother is burying the sister.
mhm.
Just the visual of her in that like plastic like body bag and she's like convulsing, like that's like really really dark. And
Yeah.
I like that. Like I like horror movies. I like really gnarly visuals, and that's like grim. And I was like, it's so frustrating because you see these little sparks of like
Yeah.
really really like innovative nasty stuff, and then you're just like, well, get somebody else to write the script. Like you know what I mean? Like because clearly the director has like a visual flair. Like he
Yeah.
understands. He
It
understands how to
looked
get you.
good. Like the movie
Yeah,
itself,
it looked
cinematically,
it looked great.
look, yeah.
He has like a knack for some really good visuals. It's just the script is so bad. Like,
Yeah.
but anyway, you were saying I
Oh, I was just going to say, because you're way more of an expert in this cinematic universe, if you will, than
yeah,
I am.
yeah,
Now, so Fede, is that Fede? The
yeah,
director.
yep.
Um, however you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I
Fetty
mispronounce
Wap, Fetty Wap,
it. His alter ego.
Fetty Wap. Yes.
So he said it was a continuation of the original.
He
Now,
yeah. I
how would
watched
that
I watched a YouTube video, and I guess he's going on record and saying is he feels that this is a sequel, not a remake, which I think is weird.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
But if it's okay, so can you remind me? I think I remember how the original ended, and didn't Ash like walk off and get
Yeah.
attacked? So how would this be a continuation
I have
of that?
absolutely no idea.
Because
Also,
yeah,
apparently there is I don't know if it was I didn't watch past the credits, but I apparently there is a stinger in this movie where Ash shows up and says groovy for some fucking reason.
really?
I have
Oh,
no
I
idea
missed
why.
that.
Yeah, I turned it off. I didn't watch the post credit. But apparently there is a deleted scene where the girl is walking actually it's taken right like there's a poster with the girl walking, and that's from this deleted scene where she's like walking down the street, and I guess they show her eyes like hinting that she's still possessed, but that
Mm,
ending also doesn't really make any sense.
yeah.
Like, I don't know,
Um,
but how this fits in a timeline, I mean, it doesn't again, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so you're saying that Evil Dead 1 happened in like 1979 or 80 or whatever it
81.
was,
Yeah.
and like so what, how did the house get clear? Like it just doesn't make, it's best if the director just never said that because it,
Right.
it
That's why I
it
was thinking the
doesn't,
same
it
thing.
does not make any sense.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought that you brought up, um, I hadn't thought of until you mentioned it, was the Necronomicon was wrapped up in like a black
Yeah,
plastic bag.
yeah.
Why the hell wasn't that buried, or maybe
Yeah,
you can't burn it, but you sure as hell can bury it
well, you could do anything else with it other than just like leave it in the fucking basement
for
or
someone
whatever.
to find.
And again, this is their family cabin. You're telling me over the course of, like, you're telling me when they were little kids that they wouldn't have found this book. Like somebody would have found this book. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like little kids get into everything. It's also a cabin that's not that big.
Yeah.
So like it seems absurd. Like just that alone, like the fact that like that's a weird story beat not to be like somebody to go, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Why was the book always there? Like, give me some
Yeah.
nonsense that the book got there somehow, or like, I don't know,
I would believe it traveled
the
through the
fucking
forest to get through.
what if
That
the
would be more believable than
all
just
right, here you
being in a
go.
plastic bag for.
What if the fucking nerdy guy went to some fucking occult bookstore and some lunatic sold it to him and
Right.
said, "Hey, my friend needs help." And he's like, "Well, I can already set it up. Here's your setup." The nerd, after the cold open, goes to this weird bookstore, right? And he's like looking, and he goes to some weird guy, like the guy at the Frogurt stand in The Simpsons. It comes with a free Frogurt, and he's like, I'm looking for something. My friend's an addict, and I'm looking for like advice, like an advice book or something. I don't know, something like that. It needs to
Right.
be tightened up, but you get the idea. And the guy's like, well, you need a higher power to help you through this. Use this. And he just has the book that way. He doesn't even look at it. He
Yeah.
just gives him the book. There you go. There he's got the book.
Yeah.
Not the best setup, but it's a setup.
Right. The guy selling it could have been Bruce Campbell. And then
That would have been
boom,
fun. Yeah.
yeah.
Or Sam Raimi or Ted Raimi, his brother, that he puts in
Yeah.
everything.
Put all the Raimis in there. Just toss them all.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot of just like missteps in this. Is the best way I can describe it. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me the level that people hold this in. Like, again, like I kept it's frustrating to me, by the way, also that like the Evil Dead thing is like still a franchise. Like,
Yeah.
as much as I liked Evil Dead Rise, the reason I liked it so much is because it was basically its own movie. Like, yeah, it had a Necronomicon and stuff, but like the worst parts of the movie were the stuff where they had to like shoehorn in the Evil
Yeah.
Dead references, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you didn't need to do like. And I get it, if you had some like just generic horror movie called High Rise, like probably nobody'd see it. So if you put Evil Dead in front, like people are so like hardwired to be like, oh, like I already know Evil Dead.
It's
Like,
such a great name. Yeah.
well, and it's also it's just annoying. Like, I hate that about movies nowadays. But like the fact that when Evil Dead Rise came out, and I kept seeing on TikTok over and over and over again, people, their tier lists of like Evil Dead, and this was literally in some people's like number one slot. It's like, are you out of your
Really?
fucking mind? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know. And
Yeah.
again, like, it's not as much as I'm like harping on how bad it is, it's not terribly made. It's just terribly generic. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
Just
horrible. It's
right.
just
Just go through the
whack.
movie enjoying the gore and try
Yeah.
not to think too much about the storyline or the
Yeah, I
plot.
mean, the
And just
the
yeah.
gore is fantastic.
Yeah.
Again, overall, the visuals are very good. Like, not even the non-gory visuals, like, it's shot very well,
Yeah.
but it's just so flat. And just boring. Like, there's just nothing to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no like character to it. Like, the original Evil Dead is very campy and like done on like a micro budget. So there's a lot of kind of jank to it that's
And
endearing.
and when you have a lead character with a drug issue, you want to feel some sympathy there. And you want to get to know the person
Yeah,
and their
that's
motive.
a
Like it
that's a
was just
very good point. You don't really spend any time with her until after everything went down, and then she's like in panic mode trying to survive. So you
right.
don't really spend any time with her. She's literally the villain through the majority of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very odd. It's an odd choice. It's a very odd choice.
All right, so we got about 3 minutes left, roughly. What on the scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Um, well, we have a rule on my other podcast, Movie the Podcast, that like being in the middle is kind of worse than being like at the bottom or at the
Agreed.
top. And this is where this is for me. It's like a 5. Like, because it's not bad, it's just like totally forgettable. I know why I forgot about this movie in the first place, because it's vaporware. It's just like I I had a hard time I just watched this movie 2 days ago, and I had a hard time remembering a lot of it now. It's just very forgettable. Like, it's not bad. Again, it's just very like standard,
Yeah.
and the things that stick out about it, are effects, and an effect without a storyline behind it doesn't mean a whole lot. So yeah, it's just like a 5. It's just kind of there. Yeah,
Yeah.
how about you?
I would give it a 6-1 just because
Okay.
I agree with you on one hand, like without a story, what really do you have? Like you have a crap
Hmm.
movie. but I did enjoy the visuals a lot.
Yeah, visuals
Um,
are good.
I thought, and I don't know if that's more of the director or the cinematographer, um, but it looked good.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a movie, even though as nonsensical as it could be at times, and the characters sucked. I don't know why I'm giving it as high a score as I am, but I feel like somewhat enjoy it as I'm going through it.
Well, it's also kind of short too. So you don't it's not
Yeah.
like it overstays its welcome at the same time.
Right.
So I get that.
Yeah. All
But
right.
yeah. All right.
So that's it. You got
Um,
it.
that's it. We already know what we're doing next week. So
Yep.
in a rare change of pace, we can actually already say what we're watching. We're
Go ahead.
watching The Loved Ones, a movie I'm very excited to watch. It was described to me as Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets a high school prom movie, and that like sold. Like that sounds incredible. So
It's almost too good to be true. I hope
I
this really
I
turns
hope it's
out
good.
okay.
I'm excited to watch it. But yeah, so that's the show. We're actually gonna stop before we get cut off. That's a nice change of pace.
I almost enjoy when I edit this together. I enjoy when we get cut off because it's
Yeah.
always fun to find out exactly where we get cut off.
Just remember, folks, keep chasing those dreams. That's our shut off, right? That's our sign off.
That's beautiful. All right.
Yeah. All
See
right,
you, TJ.
everybody. Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody.